They say love is the answer, that if you love deeply, give endlessly, and stay soft, the world will protect you, respect you, and reciprocate. But Machiavelli didn't see love as a gift, he saw it as a liability. Love is a door left open, a weakness waiting to be exploited. A person who depends on love is vulnerable to being destroyed by it, but a person who commands fear survives, not because love is bad, but because love is blind and the world is not. Where love begins, strategy ends. You love your family, friends, partner, you tell them everything, forgive them quickly, justify their actions even when they hurt you. Why? Because love lowers your guard. You stop calculating, stop protecting yourself. You assume that since you would never hurt them, they won't hurt you. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He knew even those closest to you will betray you if it suits their interest, especially when they know you won't strike back. The real danger isn't your enemies, it's familiarity. Your enemies fear your silence, but the people you love, they get comfortable with your softness, your access, your obedience. Over time, they expect loyalty without earning it, demand forgiveness instantly, and get angry when you finally pull back. Because love that isn't guarded turns you into a tool, not always intentionally, but inevitably. Machiavelli didn't believe you should remove love, he believed you should contain it. Love with a ceiling, with a cost, with a plan, without limits. Love becomes emotional exposure, and emotional exposure is the most exploitable position a powerful person can be in. Let's be clear, being cold-blooded doesn't mean being cruel. It means being aware of how people change when they get too close, aware of what you lose when you become too emotionally open, aware of what love turns into when it goes unchecked. Entitlement. Machiavelli understood something most people don't. The ones who love you unconditionally will still hurt you accidentally, and the ones who stay close just because of what you provide will hurt you deliberately. So the answer isn't to stop loving, it's to stop leading with love. The moment you lead with feelings, you lose your power. Ever wonder why your family doesn't take your advice seriously? Why friends stop listening after they get what they want? Why your partner doesn't fear losing you? Because they know your love outweighs your logic. They know you'll apologize first. You'll come back. You'll explain. You'll defend your feelings. You won't enforce consequences. That makes you predictable, soft, and safe. And Machiavelli warned us, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But with people closest to you, being feared feels wrong. So you stop playing the game and they start winning it. The cost of staying warm. You lower your standards, accept bad behavior, forgive without change, stay silent to keep peace. But the peace you're keeping is just everyone else's comfort with your weakness. When someone's comfortable with your weakness, they'll test it, poke it, exploit it. You don't have to stop loving, you have to love with boundaries so sharp they cut. Let others see your warmth, but never without a wall behind it. Because the moment your love becomes unconditional, so does your pain. Strangers don't break you, it's the ones you let closest. And Machiavelli knew why. He wasn't paranoid, he was precise. The people who know your buttons, your limits, your soft spots, are the ones most likely to press them. Not out of hate, but because they've stopped fearing you. When fear leaves a relationship, respect disappears too. Watch for these tests. Test 1. Entitlement. They stop thanking you, asking for permission, or considering what you give. In their mind, you're already theirs. They believe you'll always help, always show up, always say yes. And when you don't, you're selfish, changed, cold. Machiavelli would say, let them speak. That's just the sound of someone grieving the loss of their advantage. Test 2. The guilt reflex. You set a boundary, they get emotional. You say no, and they bring up the past. You protect your time, and they call you distant. It's not a conversation anymore, it's a tactic. They've learned that guilt can make you reverse decisions. If you flinch, they file that away to use again. That's not love, that's emotional negotiation. And if you can't hold your line through guilt, you never had a boundary. Test 3. The loyalty loop. You've been loyal and supportive, but when you're the only one doing it, it becomes expected. They stop checking in, stop reciprocating, only show up when it suits them. When you finally pull back, they panic, not because they love you, but because they lost their emotional insurance policy. Machiavelli said, if your loyalty is predictable, it will be exploited before it's appreciated. Test 4. Just this once. It starts small. Can you cover this? Cancel that. overlook this mistake just once. But the moment you give in, it's never just once. You become the person who can be bent because you've proven you won't break. They know you'll compromise as long as they stay close enough. That's not love, that's strategic pressure. Test 5. The "you're too harsh" defense. You speak clearly, pull back, stop being endlessly patient. They call you heartless. This is how they flip your strength into a sin. The truth: they don't miss your warmth. They miss the version of you who let them act without consequences. Now that version's gone. They call it cruelty. But it's just clarity. Machiavelli expected all this because he knew the closer someone is, the more they expect you to absorb their chaos. If you don't, they call you cold, different, a betrayer. Let them. The man who fears offending everyone he loves ends up surrounded by people who love how easily they can offend him. The solution: stop proving you're good. You don't owe explanations for your coldness or detachment. You don't need to apologize for outgrowing emotional systems they depended on. Enforce your boundaries silently and consistently, no matter the cost. Let accusations come. Let discomfort rise. Because once they know the old version of you is gone, they either evolve or you let them go. Either way makes you stronger. Being cold-blooded isn't about turning off your heart, it's about defending your power, especially from those who assume you'll never use it against them. If you don't protect your emotional center, you become the dumping ground for everyone else's chaos. Machiavelli didn't build walls to keep people out, he built filters to test who was worthy to get in. And once inside, no one stayed without constant requalification. Let's get into how to build the kind of boundary power Machiavelli talked about. Rule 1. Never explain your emotional distance. You don't owe anyone a reason for needing space. Whether you go silent, say no, or pull back from toxic patterns, don't explain. The more you explain, the more emotional leverage you give away. Machiavelli would say that explaining invites negotiation. Acting without asking for permission signals strength. So when someone asks, "Why are you acting different? What happened to us? Why didn't you reach out?" Don't argue. Don't unload your reasons. Just say, "I've recalibrated." That silence, that refusal to emotionally bleed, demands respect or reveals who was never capable of giving it. Rule 2. Set consequences, not conditions. Most people say things like, "Don't talk to me like that again," or "If you do this, I'll be upset," or "Please don't disrespect me." But Machiavelli wouldn't beg for better behavior. He set up structures that made disrespect costly. You don't say, "Don't do that." You show that when they do that, you vanish. You don't come back when they panic. You return only when you decide to, if ever. Boundaries don't beg, they act. That's how they earn power. Rule 3. Never negotiate through emotion. Once someone knows you cry when pressured, panic when ignored, or rush to fix things after silence, they stop respecting your mind and start playing your emotions. Machiavelli wouldn't allow that, because emotional clarity is a shield. Once pierced, your opponent no longer targets your mind, they aim for your wounds. Protect yourself by being unreadable under pressure. No long texts, no "I just feel like" moments, no impulsive re-entry after being hurt. Your silence is your leverage, your stillness is your stance, and anyone who wants your softness will have to earn it again. Rule 4. Define what you tolerate, and never waver. Most people have boundaries that shift, depending on who's asking, how long they've known them, or how emotionally tired they are. That's weakness. That's emotional currency, inflation, and it kills your worth. You need black and white rules like, "I don't respond to yelling once I've set space. That space stays until I decide otherwise. I don't reward apologies without changed behavior." Then you follow through. No exceptions. People don't test what's enforced, they test what's flexible. Machiavelli didn't punish often, but when he did, it was surgical, cold, final. You must do the same, or they'll keep gambling with your forgiveness. Rule 5. Don't fear being seen as harsh. This is where most people crack. They know they're being used. They know their peace is being disturbed. But when they enforce, they feel guilty because society tells them, if you're not endlessly patient, you're cruel. If you don't explain yourself, you're arrogant. If you don't let them back in, you're unforgiving. Machiavelli didn't fear being called cold, he feared being seen as easy. You should fear that, too. Let them call you what they want. Rewrite your character to fit their pain. When you fear reputation more than reality, you surrender power for perception, and perception changes nothing. You're not cold, you're uncompromising. Love without boundaries becomes sacrifice. Sacrifice without recognition becomes slavery. Machiavelli never died on someone else's emotional battlefield. He observed, withdrew, and returned only when respected. That's not cold-bloodedness. That's control. This is where most people hesitate. They say, I don't want to become numb. I don't want to lose myself. If I go cold, I'm afraid I won't come back. That fear is real, but that's because many confuse cold-blooded strategy with emotional disconnection. Machiavelli didn't lose his humanity. He mastered when and how to use it. In his world and in yours, feeling everything means being controlled by everything. Cold-blooded thinking isn't cruelty, it's control. You don't stop feeling. You stop reacting emotionally when your position demands calculation. You still love, care, connect, and reflect, but only within the walls you've built. Walls that protects you from becoming another pawn in someone else's emotional game. Being cold-blooded doesn't mean lacking warmth. It means choosing when and for whom to turn up the heat. That's not emotional absence. It's emotional intelligence. Control starts with internal emotional framing. You have to change how you process hurt. When someone disrespects you, don't react, to calculate. When someone lies, you don't spiral, you observe. When someone withdraws, you don't chase, you interpret. This internal dialogue changes everything. You go from, why did they do this to me, to what did this just teach me about them? Machiavelli would take betrayal and ask what he could extract from the moment to make himself stronger, because the cold-blooded thinker sees pain as positioning, not personal loss. You must master the art of slow reactions. What scares people most? Not anger, not shouting, not revenge. It's the person who sees betrayal and says nothing. They wait, they distance, they remove access, not with fury, but with indifference. Because when you react too fast, you're not dangerous, you're predictable. Machiavelli didn't act on impulse, he acted on advantage. He taught us power isn't about having the strongest emotion. It's about having the strongest timing. Build a strategic pain mindset. Every time you feel disrespected, disappointed, or replaced, you have two options: take it personally or turn it into intelligence. The cold-blooded mind doesn't cry over what it lost. It catalogs who's capable of losing you and adjusts access accordingly. It turns pain into clarity, distance into power, loss into evolution. Because when you're emotionally reactive, you give others power over your reality. But when you absorb pain quietly, you become the person no one wants to cross twice. You don't have to lose your heart. You have to protect it with a system. Most people love like it's war, but go in unarmed. They say, I'll give them everything. I'll love them through their worst. They'll come back when they realize. But Machiavelli knew hope isn't a strategy, and kindness without discipline is suicide in disguise. So you don't close your heart, you build a gate. And behind that gate is a rule. Only those who prove their consistency gain your vulnerability. Your warmth must be earned, not assumed. Your care must be conditional, not because you're cruel, but because you're valuable. The final shift: you must accept being misunderstood. This is what stops most people from stepping into true power. They want to be strategic, but they also want to be liked. They want respect, but they also want to stay nice. Machiavelli would say, if you need others to agree with your evolution, you've already surrendered the freedom to evolve. You'll be called cold, seen as detached, and lose people who loved the version of you who always bled on command. Let them leave. Their discomfort isn't your problem. It's their loss of access to the old you. And the old you, that version was easy to hurt. Cold-blooded doesn't mean heartless. Detached doesn't mean disconnected. Strong doesn't mean selfish. But that's what they'll say the moment you stop overgiving, over-explaining, and over-loving. Suddenly you're too much, too sharp, too different. That's where most people fail. They either stay soft and get used, or go hard and lose themselves. Machiavelli walked a middle path, a path of strategic empathy. Let's dive into staying powerful without becoming the monster people accuse you of being. Step 1. Define your intention, not their perception. Ask yourself, are you setting boundaries to hurt them or to protect yourself? Are you creating distance because you're cold or because you're drained? Are you silent because you're passive-aggressive or because you've already said enough? If your answer is self-protection, not retaliation, you're on the right path. Machiavelli didn't care about looking noble. He cared about maintaining position. People who can keep their position without cruelty are rare. That's your role now. Step 2. Show mercy without losing your stance. There's nothing wrong with giving someone another chance, being kind without being naive, or helping someone you've pulled away from. If they've shown real growth, the danger isn't mercy itself, but forgetting why you pulled away in the first place. So when you give, don't remove the standard or erase the consequence. Don't return without terms. You can offer softness but never surrender, and that's the balance. Step 3. Control your presence, not just your distance. Many think pulling away equals power, but Machiavelli knew that controlled presence is far more influential. Show up briefly, speak clearly, then exit while they still feel your absence. You become the reminder, not the enemy, not the emotional wreck, not the drama but the calm, the person always a few steps ahead, the one who left without chaos but changed the temperature of the room just by leaving. That's authority, without digression. Step 4. Maintain standards, not control. You can't force anyone to respect you. You can only make disrespect costly. That means you don't demand apologies. You don't force communication. You don't try to make people understand. You withdraw access, remove emotional privileges, and let the silence do the math for them. If they rise to meet your standard, you re-engage. If not, they never belonged beside your evolution in the first place. Step 5. Let your kindness be selective, not exhausted. You don't stop being kind. You stop being careless with your kindness. Give it slowly, after careful observation, with internal checkpoints and clear exit strategies. If things go off track and people label your kindness as transactional, let them. Unconditional giving sounds noble until it's used as a weapon against your peace. Now, give only what aligns with your vision, energy, and emotional health. That's not selfish, it's self-command. Step 6. Don't defend your boundaries, enforce them. If people call you cold, say you're distant, accuse you of switching up, say nothing. You don't need to debate your transformation, just keep walking. Power isn't proven through conversation, it's revealed through consistency. If they miss the old you, let them remember it. But they don't get access to the elevated you until they prove they've outgrown the old version of themselves. Balance isn't a line, it's a filter. You're not meant to become stone. You're meant to be a mirror reflecting others clearly and giving warmth only when it's earned. Staying calm, no matter who throws the first punch. That's Machiavellian empathy, strategic, conditional, and unwavering in its boundaries. You've learned the warnings. You've seen the patterns. You've outgrown the version of yourself that was too soft to be safe. Now, the final step isn't a theory, it's a lifestyle. Machiavelli didn't theorize power, he became it. And if you want to stay cold-blooded in a world that constantly pushes you to shrink back into emotional servitude, you need rules, rituals, repetition. This is how you make your boundaries permanent, without ever needing to announce them again. Habit 1. Move without emotional announcements. Don't tell people, I'm cutting you off, or I'm creating space, or I'm focusing on myself. You just move. Slow your replies. Stop over-explaining. Don't re-engage once you've withdrawn. Real boundaries don't need speeches, they're written in your consistency, not your captions. Machiavelli never needed people to agree with his silence. He just made sure they felt it. Habit 2. Stay polite. Never over-familiar. Your warmth should never be automatic, should be earned and maintained. Greet with composure. Compliment with purpose. Exit while still respected. This balance keeps your image disciplined and clean. Why? Because the emotionally familiar person is easy to use, but the one who stays precise is impossible to manipulate. Your cold-blooded nature doesn't come from being harsh, it comes from being structured. Habit 3. Reflect before reacting. Someone will always disappoint you. You don't snap, you observe. Someone crosses your line, you don't escalate, you catalog it. Cold-bloodedness isn't about having no emotion, it's never letting emotion move before thought. This pause, this internal filter, is your new edge. When others spiral, panic, shout, or sulk, your stillness will intimidate more than any outburst ever could. Habit 4. Never reopen what you closed without requalification. You left for a reason, so don't come back without a new reason. If you ended a friendship, relationship, or partnership, let them re-earn the version of you that gave access. Too many return because of apologies or time passing, hoping things will be different. Time doesn't heal, betrayal standards do. If they haven't grown, you haven't missed anything. Habit 5. Treat your peace as a private strategy, not a public statement. Don't turn your emotional maturity into marketing. You're not cold-blooded so people admire you. You're cold-blooded so people respect what they can't access at will. You live quietly. You protect deeply. You let the results of your self-control speak louder than any video or quote ever could. That's the Machiavellian finish line. Total power, no explanation. Let's continue exploring those habits that make cold-bloodedness a powerful lifestyle. Habit 1. Move without emotional announcements. Real boundaries don't need speeches or explanations. You don't tell people, "I'm cutting you off," or "I need space," or "I'm focusing on myself." You simply move. Slow your replies. Stop over-explaining. And once you've withdrawn, don't re-engage. Your consistency says everything that words can't. Machiavelli never needed to explain his silence. He just made sure people felt it. Habit 2. Stay polite, but never overly familiar. Your warmth should never be automatic. It needs to be earned and consistently maintained. Greet people with calm composure, offer compliments with intention, and always exit while still respected. This balance keeps your image disciplined and clean. The emotionally familiar person is easy to use, but the precise, structured individual is nearly impossible to manipulate. Your cold-blooded nature doesn't come from being harsh, it develops from being disciplined and structured. Habit 3. Reflect before reacting. Disappointment is inevitable. When someone lets you down, don't snap or lash out. Observe when someone crosses your boundary, don't escalate. Instead, catalog it. Cold-bloodedness isn't about lacking emotion. It's about never letting emotion override thought. That pause, that internal filter, this becomes your new edge. When others spiral, panic, shout, or sulk, your calm stillness will intimidate far more than any emotional outburst ever could. Habit 4. Never reopen what you closed without requalification. You left for a reason, so don't go back without a new, specific reason. Whether it's a friendship, a relationship, or a partnership, you make others re-earn access to that version of you who once gave them vulnerability. Too many reopen closed chapters just because of apologies or because time passed. But time doesn't heal, betrayal standards do. If they haven't grown, you haven't lost anything. Habit 5. Treat your peace as a private strategy, not a public statement. Don't turn your emotional maturity into a marketing tool. You aren't cold-blooded so people admire you. You're cold-blooded so people respect what they can't access at will. You live quietly, you protect deeply, and you let the results of your self-control speak louder than any, quote, video or social post ever could. That's the Machiavellian finish line. Total power. No explanation now. This path isn't just about shutting down emotions or being distant hits. The art of controlled empathy. Being cold-blooded means knowing when to turn your warmth on and for whom. It means not letting every slight control your emotional state or reactions. It means staying emotionally intelligent and strategic. In today's world, there's constant pressure to stay soft, to be available emotionally to everyone, to forgive endlessly, and to explain yourself endlessly. But that only makes you vulnerable. Those who master cold-bloodedness don't stop feeling. They stop being ruled by feelings that hurt their position or power. Think about this. When someone disrespects or lies to you, your first instinct might be to react emotionally. But when you calculate your response, you protect your power. When someone withdraws, you don't chase. Instead, you interpret what that means, what it reveals about them, and what it teaches you about your boundaries. The cold-blooded thinker turns pain into positioning, disappointment into clarity, loss into evolution. They learn the art of slow reaction. What scares people most isn't anger or revenge, it's the silent observer who sees betrayal and says nothing, who distances themselves calmly and removes access, not out of fury but indifference, because reacting too quickly makes you predictable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. Machiavelli taught us power isn't about the strongest emotion, it's about the strongest timing. So build a strategic pain mindset. Every time you feel disrespected, disappointed, or replaced, you can either take it personally or turn it into intelligence. The cold-blooded mind doesn't cry over what it lost. Instead, it catalogs who's capable of losing you and adjusts access. Accordingly, you don't lose your heart, you protect it with a system. Most people go into emotional battles unarmed, they say. I'll give them everything, love through their worst. they'll come back. But Machiavelli knew hope is not a strategy. Kindness without discipline is suicide. You don't shut your heart. You build a gate, and behind that gate are rules. Only those who prove their consistency gain your vulnerability. Your warmth must be earned. Your care must be conditional, not because you're cruel, but because you're valuable. Finally, accept being misunderstood. This halts many from stepping into true power. They want to be strategic, but also liked, respected, but also nice. Machiavelli says, if you need others to agree with your evolution, you've already surrendered your freedom to evolve. You'll be called cold, detached, and you'll lose people who loved the version of you who always bled on command. Let them leave. Their discomfort is not your problem. It's their loss of access to the old Yuan, easy target. Cold-blooded doesn't mean heartless. Detached doesn't mean disconnected. Strong doesn't mean selfish. Yet, that's what you'll hear when you stop over-giving, over-explaining, over-loving. You'll be too much, too sharp, too different, and many will fail here. They either stay soft and get used, or go hard and lose themselves. Machiavelli walked a middle path, the path of strategic empathy. Now, let's wrap this up with the ultimate truth about becoming cold-blooded in a world that constantly demands emotional servitude. Machiavelli had rules, rituals, and repeated actions that made his boundaries permanent, so they never needed to be announced or justified. You need the same. First, move without emotional announcements. You don't have to declare your actions or reasons. Don't say, I'm cutting you off, or I'm taking space for myself. You just move, quietly. When you slow your replies, stop over-explaining, and refuse to re-engage after withdrawing, your boundaries become obvious through your consistency alone. That silent strength commands far more respect than any speech ever could. Machiavelli didn't need people to agree with his silence. He only made sure they felt it. Second, stay polite and composed, but never overly familiar. Your warmth should be measured, earned, and consistently maintained, never automatic. Greet with calmness, compliment with intention, and exit while you're still respected. This balance keeps your image disciplined and untouchable. The emotionally familiar can be manipulated easily, but the precise and structured person is almost impossible to bend. Your cold-bloodedness comes from being structured, not harsh. Third, reflect before reacting. Disappointment and boundary crossing are inevitable. When someone disappoints you, don't snap. When they cross your line, don't escalate, catalog it. Being cold-blooded doesn't mean lacking emotion. It means never letting emotion dictate your actions first. That slight pause, that internal filter, becomes your sharpest edge. When others spiral, panic, or throw fits, your calmness will intimidate more than any outburst ever could. Fourth, never reopen doors you've closed without you left for a reason. So if you open up, make sure there's a new reason to do so. Relationships, friendships, or partnerships all need that renewed access. Many come back due to apologies or time passing, hoping for change, but time doesn't heal betrayal. Standards do. If they haven't grown, you haven't lost anything. Fifth, treat your peace as a deeply private strategy, not a public statement. Don't market your emotional maturity. You're not cold-blooded so people admire. You're cold-blooded so people respect what they can't freely access. You live quietly and protect deeply. The results of your self-control speak louder than any video, quote, or social post ever could. This is the Machiavellian finish line: total power, no explanation needed. In the end, this path is about mastering strategic empathy, knowing when to be warm and when to hold back, being emotionally intelligent without being controlled by feelings. It's about protecting yourself so you're never pawned in someone else's emotional game. When you do this, you're not cold-hearted, you're simply precise. You're not detached, you're selectively connected. You're not selfish, you're self-commanded. Becoming cold-blooded is choosing when and for whom to turn the heat on. It's about emotional intelligence and control that starts from within. So embrace your cold-blooded self, not because you want to shut down emotions, but because you want to defend your power with unwavering precision. Build that gate with strict rules behind it. Only those who prove their loyalty and consistency get vulnerability and warmth. Accept being misunderstood. It's part of true evolution. You won't always be liked or understood by those who loved the old, easily hurt version of you. Let them go. Their discomfort is not your problem. Stay strategic, stay compassionate, but guarded. Let your actions be your loudest message. That's the power Machiavelli became, and that you can too. Total power. No explanation.